Welcome to Confessions of a Parent Coach. I'm Coach, a mother of four, and potty talker, Ann Kaplan. This is the podcast where I confess something from my own parenting and coaching life, teach a lesson around it, and answer your questions. Even we parenting experts are far from perfect, and the real magic happens when we get down with all that imperfection. We get into the gritty side of parenting here, so earbud up and dive in.
Welcome into another episode of the podcast, listeners. I'm excited to be here with you again today for another installment of Confessions of a Parent Coach. And what I want to talk about today is something that always comes up this time of year, because every year, right around mid-May, early June, I am talking a lot about the fall retreat, because this is when early bird pricing is in effect. This is when my VIPs receive their invitations in the mail, all that great stuff. And so if you're thinking about coming on the retreat, which is in October, early bird pricing is in effect until June 15th. So now is the time. If you take advantage of all the different discounts that are available at this time, you could be saving like upwards of $1,000 by registering right now. So, come on now. Who doesn't love to be a smart shopper? Don't wait. Don't hem and haw and know that you really want to come, but then need so much talking yourself into it that you miss this opportunity to get that good pricing. Anyway, and if you're interested in that, obviously the link to learn more about the retreat and to set up a call with me to answer all your questions and all that good stuff, that's all in the show notes. So the topic that I want to talk about, this topic that comes up every year when I'm marketing the retreat, is the idea about fun. And when I started thinking about it this year, I started thinking about it not in terms of fun, actually. I started thinking about it as the feeling that I had a year and a half ago, actually. And that's what my confession is for you today. About a year-ish ago, I started realizing, if you're a friend of mine or if you chatted with me during that time, you probably heard me say, my life has become so small. And I think that that is an experience that all of us go through, at different times during our lives. I just remembered the feeling or the person I used to be before all of the last several years. So obviously all of us went through COVID, and that was a real sort of shrinking of our social circle, our social lives, of course. And that happened to me as well. But the timing of COVID was kind of, a double whammy, because right at the beginning of COVID was also when our son Elijah started doing really poorly, and we really wound up closing ranks and focusing basically entirely, like every minute of my day was consumed with how to make sure that this kid got better. And so between COVID and between all of the, many multiple years of us being really plugged into Elijah's wellness and his recovery, and right before COVID, we had been living abroad for 2 years. So when you started adding it up, it was like, okay, so 2 years living abroad, and then 2 years of COVID, and then like another year of Elijah wrapping up his treatment. We really had this like 5 year chunk of time where, our lives just got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And, last year I kind of looked around and was like, I have like two friends. And locally anyways, I'm like thinking, oh gosh, I probably have some friends who might listen to this podcast and feel like I'm discounting our friendship or something like that. If that is you, please, that is not what I'm doing. It was really this sensation of like, man, I remember what it was like before we moved to Spain, before COVID, before all of this like horrifying and terrifying stuff with Elijah, to host dinner parties like probably like once a week. Like I had people over all the time, and I went out and did stuff all the time. And we would do like a lot of my friends in the neighborhood on Fridays, we would do something called Front Porch Friday, where like one person in the neighborhood would be like, Front Porch Friday, my place. And it was great because you didn't have to clean your house because no one came inside. We all just sat on the front porch, had a happy hour. Everyone would bring snacks. Like, you really didn't, to host, you really didn't hardly have to do anything. You didn't have to provide food or drinks or clean your house. You just had to say front porch Friday, my house. So it was like our social life was so wide. Our social circle was huge, and our life was very varied, right? Like, there was a lot of different stuff going on all the time. Sometimes people will come to our house, sometimes people will go to their house. Like, I just felt like I had lots and lots of friends, and I had lots and lots of stuff to do, and my life was very, you know, balanced um and with lots and lots of variety. And, now fast forward to about a year ago, I'm looking around, and the words that I used to describe my life were small and monochromatic. All I did was work and do laundry and go to the grocery store. I hardly ever socialized anymore. And I was like, I got to get out. I got to get out here. I need to start like making plans with people. I need to like sign up. I signed up for singing lessons. I need to like get out from behind my desk and behind my computer camera and, get my life back. And as I talked to a lot of people, I found that the way I was feeling wasn't that unusual. There were so many people feeling similarly to me. Now, of course, maybe they hadn't lived in Spain for 2 years or gone through a rough patch with their kid, but we all went through COVID. I think also, my age group, all my friends that I made when my kid was in kindergarten, like, now we're older. And so I think there's some transition that happens as we age also, in terms of like how wide a net we like to cast and what we like to do with our time. But all of this is to say that these experiences of like our lives becoming really small, shrinking in reaction to something that we're going through, this happens. And it does, it's frustrating because it happens without us even noticing or intentionally making that happen. But the reverse, trying to expand again, trying to connect again, trying to have that balance in our lives again, that takes effort. It's not going to happen organically. So it's like you accidentally like sort of slide or slip into this like, hobbit hole existence. But if you want to get out of that, you have to put some effort in. And that to me is what really stood out to me when I started considering these ideas of fun and connection, that go along, of course, with coming on a retreat. To me, a really great retreat, and you've probably heard me say this before, is an amazing balance of transformative work that's just going to stick with you and be, part of who you are afterwards, plus just fun and relaxation and spaciousness and just meeting new people and, all of the amazing things. So it's this combination of, deep, amazing, fulfilling work plus vacation vibes, right? And so, of course, when we talk about coming on a retreat, we have to think about like, am I going to enjoy myself? Like, is it going to be fun? And as soon as I start, for me personally, anyways, as soon as I start thinking about that, I really connected so much with this idea of like, what have I become? And if you're resonating with what I'm saying, I want you to know, first of all, that you're not alone. I can tell you that because as I've talked to more and more moms about this, especially, we all are kind of like, I hardly even recognize myself. And I also want to normalize that, like, this isn't a bad thing. It's normal. It's natural. Like, for example, one of the most common universal times that this happens to us is when we have a new baby or a new child comes into our family. We close ranks, right? Like, we're sleep deprived. We really need to, adjust to this new transition. We can't be putting more stuff on our plate or add more balls in the air. And it happens all the time where I work with clients who have found me because, after their kid reaches maybe their first or second birthday, they sort of like come up for air and look around them and be like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I have completely lost myself in motherhood and I have nothing else going on for me right now. So if that's you, whether it's because you had a new kid or for other reasons, please know that you're not alone. And also, please know that there's something you can do about it. So I kind of tried to brainstorm like, what are the times when we naturally sort of close ranks and shrink our lives down to the bare essentials. And new baby was the first one that popped into my mind. But I can tell you, like when I work with clients, the other most common times I see are struggles that they're going through, either struggles with their child, struggles with feeling just overwhelmed with like everything that's on their plate. They don't have the bandwidth to add more or to attend to this really important aspect of wellness because they have so many other things going on. Also, and these ones you may or may not resonate with, but I'm putting them out there because I know that a lot of people do. And sometimes we need to hear it from somebody else. Two other reasons why we tend to isolate: financial reasons. I mean, the stress of going through something that is financially draining, or maybe it's just like a little bit of a fear factor around it. I remember when we bought this house that we live in currently, it was a real financial stretch for us. And even though we had done all the math and really were 100% confident that we wanted to do it, writing that check, that those first couple of months, oh my gosh, I'd never written a check so big in my life. And it scared the crap out of me. And I definitely found myself like, we can't go out. We can't afford it. We moved to this amazing neighborhood, but too bad for us. We're eating peanut butter and ramen for the rest of our lives. Obviously that relaxed over time, but that's such a great example that when you're in that feeling of like scarcity, you're kind of in this like batten down the hatches, and that really impacts your ability to have a big, full, varied life, right? And the other one that I put here, and I know there's some listeners out there that are going to resonate with this, is how do we feel, especially moms, how we feel about how we look, how our relationship with our body is doing. And if you have had a baby biologically, that's a wild ride, right? Your body will never be the same again. And for a lot of us, when we feel, not confident, when we feel down on how we look, when we feel like, oh, I got to do all this stuff to get myself back in shape or get back to health, that's another time when we kind of just hermit, right? So I put all these things out there just so that you can resonate with your own version of what this feels like when life becomes just small, monochromatic. You have lost connection with your, more authentic, vibrant self. And for a lot of my clients, what that looks like is just like I said, kind of coming up for air and being like, who am I? I have lost myself. Or how about this one? This is one I resonated with. Like when last year, when I was like, whoa, my life has shrunk. I realized the only things I ever did that were social was once a month going to my book club. And the rest of the time it was just, put your head down and do the grind. Or, another one that I resonated with, but I've heard from a lot of people, is this idea of like, well, I did go on a girls trip with my girlfriends. Cool. How long ago is that? 3 years ago, 5 years ago. We're going to maybe do it 2 years from now, right? Don't get me wrong. I mean, nobody loves a girl trip like me. But let's be real, like you can't be coasting on the lingering fumes of these little moments that you give yourself. Like that's not how you want to live your one and only life on this planet. And when we come down into that like self-protection state of like like just like complete like monolith of like I only do this, and this entire, you know, faction of my life is completely neglected. That's not how we want to live. And one of the things I do, especially last year, one of the things I did with my clients who came to the retreat was we sat down and we talked about, and you may have heard before, I mean, I certainly did not come up with this, but it's a really interesting tool, the wheel of life. You could Google it. If you look at any of these, it's a self-assessment tool where you look at the different aspects of your life. So maybe your financial, your career, your family, your partnership, your spiritual life, your health and fitness. And one of the quadrants, I don't want to say quadrants because it's more than four, but one of the aspects that you are asked to rank when you do this self-assessment is fun and enjoyment. And guess how many moms give themselves a 10 out of 10? Come on. We hold ourselves back from that. We shrink down and we prioritize one or two or three of those facets of our lives, and the others just really waste away. And once again, this for me is a mantra that I come back to all the time in my own decision making, which is how do I want to spend this one and only chance? Like you only get one life. What am I going to look back at and say, golly, what a waste? And what am I going to look back at and say, oh my God, I did it right? And when I think about that fun and enjoyment part, that was the part that I really had neglected. And so if you're like me, I want you to do an exercise right now, which is to kind of think of a time, remember back to a time when you felt like you did have more variety and balance in life. Like remember fun you. And just take a second and try to conjure that up in your mind. And what I really want you to conjure up isn't just kind of the things that I realized at first when I was doing this exercise for myself, which is like, I used to like have people over like once or twice a week, those kind of logistical things. I want you to think more about like, how did it feel? Like, how did I feel in that life? Like, how did being fun me feel? And for a lot of us, the words that come to mind are, enthusiasm, curiosity, interest, right? Like we're like life is so interesting when, we have that variety and we're interacting more. And another thing that comes up for me is that idea of a flow state. When you're really just in touch with the real gifts, your gifts that you bring to the table that you have to offer the world, and you're living in those gifts and you are just being in pleasure and joy and frivolity and laughter and connection and all of those things. To me, that feels like a flow. And who you are when you're in that state, when you're fun you, how do you show up in the world? Because the real connection I want to give you is it's easy. It's easy to deprioritize this. It's easy to deprioritize it and think about all these other things are more important, like our financial well-being, right? Our, um, how we're taking care of our kids, the logistics, running the house, all the stuff, right? All the stuff that when we shrink our lives down, all that's left is, the homework. Okay. It's really easy to believe something that's not true, which is resurrecting fun you would be fun. And that's about it. That is not the case. There's a reason why fun and enjoyment are on those wheels of life. They're on those self assessments. It's not because we just want you to be happy, although, of course, coaches, we want you to achieve your goals, and happiness is often a goal for many people. The reason why fun and enjoyment is on those self assessments, though, is because it has been proven, scientifically proven in psychological studies and epidemiological studies over and over and over again that fun and enjoyment are directly tied to holistic wellness, meaning it is not possible for you to truly be entirely healthy and well if this part of your life is neglected. Now, that doesn't mean you have to do it according to you get to decide what does fun and enjoyment mean to you. It might not even be connecting with other people. It might be something completely different. For me, that's part of it, connection with other people. But if you are neglecting that part, like we know like factually, actually, scientifically, that you are not actually living your best life, that there is something that's off kilter and imbalanced for you. So when we decide, okay, fun and enjoyment, resurrecting fun me, it's not just something that would be fun for a little while and then be, kind of cool. It would actually change my lived experience of my life all the time, even when I'm not having fun. And now I want you to take that into parenting and ask yourself, if you took fun you off the back burner and resurrected her, and if you knew how to actually be her more often, I'm saying her, but obviously if you're a dude listening to this, you get the idea. make this apply to whatever gender you identify with. Um, if you not only brought her off the back burner, not only resurrected her, but you actually learned how to be her and bring her into your everyday life, imagine how you might parent. Imagine parenting from that flowy, joyful state. How often would you lose your temper? How often would you overreact to your kids? How often would you be able to let things go? How often would you be able to be calm, which then allows you to access new and different parenting skills because you are in a regulated state. So you're not in fight or flight. You're not grabbing for your default mode that causes maybe problems between you and your kid. You're regulated and calm, meaning you can think, oh, yeah, I think I learned this new thing from Anne the other day and I remember that and I'm going to try it right now. How often would those metrics shift? How would they shift if you had that fun and enjoyment metric at a healthy level? It's huge. You know, you need to imagine it for yourself. I can't tell you the answers, but I can tell you what I've observed both in myself and in my clients. And bringing that joy in, removing the sort of like scolding, self critical, and sort of like self governing energy from your way of being completely changes who you are as a parent. And it becomes so much closer to the mom that you really want to be. And not only the mom you want to be, but the mom that is going to have the best impact on your kids, the mom that your kids are going to benefit the most from having just by doing something fun and making sure that that aspect of your life is present consistently. So to bring it back to the retreat, obviously coming on a retreat is huge in this whole like fun and enjoyment category, like we talked about before. This year's retreat, I think, is doubly so because we are talking exactly the theme of the retreat, the name of the retreat is Motherhood Untamed. So I want you to think about removing all of those governors, taking away or overcoming the parts of you that hold you back and really living out loud instead of living small, living large, being complete in yourself and not limiting all of these little pieces of yourself that you've decided are less important or you've deprioritized. Because what is important, like I said in the beginning, about a retreat is not just, oh, that was really fun, although that is very important. And I'll tell you right now, anything, if you know something's going to be fun for you, that's reason enough to do it. You don't have to have some other redemptive aspect to it. Fun in itself is redemptive. But to me, a really powerful retreat does that plus gives you tools. It changes you on a fundamental level and gives you tools so that you not only resurrect fun you learn how to be her regularly, healthily, in balance going forward. When you return home, you are a different person than you are when you arrived at my doorstep. That is what I want you to think about when you think about remembering fun remembering and looking at where has your life gotten small and how can you start to intentionally do something about it. And obviously, my suggestion to you is what you should intentionally do about it is come on the retreat. Right now, at the time of this recording, there are 2 to 3 spots left, depending on how roommate situations work out. And I would love for you to be one of the people that fills that spot. It's an amazing retreat. Testimonials coming out the yin yang from moms who have gone in years past. And this year is going to be the best year yet. I've got new excursions planned. I've got new fun activities planned. And the theme of just parenting from freedom and that whole concept of motherhood untamed is just, oh, it gives me goosebumps whenever I think about it. So if you're thinking about it, if you even just seem curious about it, go ahead and reach out to me. If you are on my email list, reply to an email. If you are watching this video on YouTube, send me a little note. Go to the website, check it out, and I will help you make this happen for yourself. Whether you have a lot of yeah buts, yeah, but I can't afford it, yeah, but childcare, yeah, but I totally get it. And part of my job is to help you troubleshoot that stuff and make it possible for you and answer all your questions and make it so that this feels like the best choice you could possibly make. I am so excited to meet Fun You. And like I said, take advantage of that early bird pricing period that ends June 15th. Have a great week, everybody. I will talk to you soon. Bye.
The episode is over, but there's more waiting for you. You can grab my free workbook, Getting Kids to Listen the First Time, that walks you through the fundamental principles I teach all of my clients and applies them to this very universal parenting challenge. So if you're sick of repeating yourself all day long or just want to learn more about my style, you'll definitely want to go to bit.ly/kidswholisten. And if you're ready to work with me, let's meet. Set up a free call at bit.ly/Kaplan call, and let's create an action plan that gets you exactly where you want to go. And of course, links to all this goodness are in the show notes. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.